Hi guys, it's me, Miss George. Can you tell which Katie book we're going to read today? That's right, Katie and the Dinosaurs. Now I can't really read with my dinosaur hat on, so I'm going to switch it up to my adventure hat because we are going on an adventure with Katie today. Katie and the Dinosaurs, written and illustrated by James Mayhew, and I have permission from Hachette Childrens Group Publishing to read this book. So, here we go. Come on and look, Grandma. Come and see the dinosaurs, said Katie. Katie loved the Natural History Museum, and she wanted to show her grandma everything. There's just a load of old bones, said Grandma. Well, you're really old, said Katie. There must have been dinosaurs alive when you were little. I'm not that old, snorted Grandma, looking for somewhere to sit down. They found a seat next to a skeleton of a very fierce-looking dinosaur. Why don't you go and look at your horrible dinosaurs while I have 40 winks, said Grandma. They're not horrible, sniffed Katie. But I do wish they weren't just skeletons. And she skipped off on her own, taking the picnic lunch with her just in case she got hungry. Katie saw all sorts of dinosaurs. Some had spikes, others had horns or rings or long, long tails. She closed her eyes and tried to imagine they were alive. She thought they must have been very frightening with their sharp teeth and claws. Next to one of the dinosaurs was a corridor. Katie set off down it to make sure she didn't miss anything worth seeing. The corridor was long and dark, and there was no one in sight. Katie began to feel scared. She looked for a way out sign, but there didn't seem to be one. She was lost. Now what do I do? Said Katie crossly. She came to a big door with a notice on it that said, "Absolutely no admittance whatsoever." "I'll just take a quick look," said Katie, and she opened the door and stepped through. The door led outside, and there in front of her was a dinosaur. It was no bigger than Katie, but it was a real live one. "Hello," said Katie. "Who are you?" "Hadrosaurus," said the dinosaur. "Who are you?" "I'm Katie," said Katie, "and I think I'm lost." "I'm lost too," said Hadrosaurus. "I was chased by a Tyrannosaurus Rex." "Isn't that the really fierce dinosaur?" asked Katie. "That's right," said Hadrosaurus. "Now I don't know how to get home." "Don't worry," said Katie. "I'll be able to see where we are from the top of that hill." And she climbed up a steep slope. "This isn't a hill," said Hadrosaurus, scrambling up behind her. Katie gasped. "Oh, it's an Apatosaurus!" She was very high up and she could see for miles. "Now, show me where you live," said Katie. "I think it's somewhere over there along the riverbank," said Hadrosaurus. Katie looked across the river. "What are those funny-looking birds?" she asked. "Pterosaurs," said Hadrosaurus. "Watch out!" One of the pterosaurs spotted Katie's yellow scarf. It swooped towards her, and before Katie could duck, it had snatched the scarf from her. "Hey, that's mine! Bring it back!" yelled Katie. But the pterosaur flew far away. The Apatosaurus started moving. She was getting fed up with those two noisy creatures jumping about on her back. The Apatosaurus lumbered down to the river for a nice cool bathe. She was so huge that Katie and Hadrosaurus just hung on and hardly got wet at all. Katie looked across the water. All sorts of strange creatures were swimming there. She recognized some of them from the museum. The Ichthyosaurus with their long snouts and the Plesiosaurus with its snake-like neck. Before long, the Apatosaurus reached the edge of the water. "Let's go," said Katie. Followed by Hadrosaurus, she slid off the way down to the tip of the Apatosaurus's tail, and they landed in a giggling heap on the ground. "Which way now?" said Katie. "Into the jungle," said Hadrosaurus. The jungle was hot and sticky. Through the trees, Katy could see a herd of enormous dinosaurs. "What on earth are those?" asked Katy. "I don't like the look of them." "Only stegosaurs," said Hadrosaurus. "They won't hurt us." "Are you sure?" said Katy as one stegosaur licked its lips. "Oh yes, they only eat plants," said Hadrosaurus. So Katy gave them some grass, and then they went off through the jungle. Suddenly, Hadrosaurus let out a squeal. There was his family. They hugged him, and they hugged Katy too for bringing him home. "I hope you're not going to eat me," worried Katy. "Of course not," said Hadrosaurus. "We're plant eaters too." That reminded Katy that she hadn't eaten her lunch yet. She was feeling quite hungry by now, but she politely shared her cucumber sandwiches and chocolate biscuits, or cookies. She saved her meat pie for later. Plant-eating dinosaurs from far and wide picked up the smell of Katy's sandwiches and padded across the rocks towards her. There was a spiky Styracosaurus and a Triceratops with his horns, the Iguanodon with his sharp thumbs, and all types of ankylosaurs. The dinosaurs shook some large, strange-looking fruits out of the trees, and they all ate until they were full. It was the best picnic Katy had ever had. Suddenly, another dinosaur crashed out of the jungle. It was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He had been following Katy and Hadrosaurus. He grunted and growled and ground up his teeth and swished his tail and stamped his scaly feet. He was hungry. He didn't want cucumber sandwiches or chocolate biscuits. He wanted meat. He wanted Katy. "Quick, run for your life," said Hadrosaurus. Tyrannosaurus Rex thundered after Katy and the dinosaurs as they ran through the jungle towards the river. Katy was out of breath, but she kept running. At last, she could see the museum ahead of her. If only she had stayed safely inside. Then she remembered the meat pie. She tore open her lunchbox and threw a piece at the Tyrannosaurus Rex. The Tyrannosaurus stopped in his tracks. He sniffed the piece of pie. He ate it up. He liked it so much that Katy threw him the rest, even though she had been saving it for herself. And the Tyrannosaurus Rex padded off into the jungle again, clutching Katy's lunchbox. "Phew, that was close," said Katy. It was getting late now, so Katy turned to say goodbye to Hadrosaurus. "I do wish you could come home with me," she said, "but Grandma would only scream and make a fuss." "I'm happy here with my family anyway," said Hadrosaurus. He gave Katy a lick. "Thank you for helping me find my way home." "Blah!" spluttered Katy, as dinosaurs have very sloppy tongues. Then she went back to the museum door. This time, Katy easily found her way back to Grandma, who was waiting where she had been left. "Where on earth have you been?" asked Grandma. "I've seen all kinds of dinosaurs," said Katy. "Why don't you come and have a look too?" "All right," said Grandma. "Where do we start?" "This way," said Katy, taking her hand. And off they went. The end. I bet she was taking her to see the real dinosaurs. I don't know if Grandma would like that very much. So now let's get to some dinosaur activities. So, Katy and the dinosaurs. Today, I'm going to give you 2 challenges, and this isn't going to be really a step-by-step art activity like I've done in the past. It's more of getting you to use your imagination, and Katy's going to help us with that. On the last page of the book, we find a challenge. So it says, "Here are all the dinosaurs I met in this book," and underneath each one is a guide of how to say their names. Dinosaurs come in all shapes and sizes. Some had spikes, others had fins, some had very long necks, and some had terrible sharp teeth. I've had a go at inventing my own dinosaur. I called it the Katysaurus. Do you like it? Why don't you draw a picture of your own imaginary dinosaur and don't forget to name it? Now, these are some of the dinosaurs we saw in the book, and I know you probably can't see the name, but I'll just go through a few of them, like Hadrosaurus, Plesiosaurus, Iguanodon, Stegosaurus, Apatosaurus. We saw the Ichthyosaurus, the pterosaur, or it's kind of like a pterodactyl, right? The Tyrannosaurus Rex, Triceratops, and many others. So here's your challenge, two of them actually. The first thing I want you to do is invent a dinosaur based on your personality. I have made one to show you an example. And of course you have to name it. My dinosaur is called the Arta-Georgosaurus for George and art. But there's other things I put in my dinosaur that have to do with my personality. So you'll see he's got paint splatters of red, yellow, blue in the primary colors. Paint brushes for spikes on the front, but on the back, his spikes are pizza because I love me some pizza. He's got cat ears because I love my cat Grover. He's got a leaf for an eyebrow because I really love plants, especially houseplants. He's got a book for a tail because I love to read. Starry Night under his belly because I love Van Gogh's Starry Night. He's got skates on his feet for two reasons. I like to skate, but I also just like to travel. And I couldn't really show him getting in an airplane, so instead I put skates on his feet. I made him this light purple, but really in my imagination, I think of him kind of like a chameleon, and he can change colors whenever he wants to. And what does he eat? He loves ice cream, coming from the very important ice cream plant that grew a long time ago when there were dinosaurs, right? So this is my Arta-Georgosaurus. Now you can come up with a completely different way to draw your dinosaur. I made mine inspired by the Stegosaurus, but you can look up others if you have a dinosaur book or if you have the internet or just from your imagination. It doesn't even really have to look like a dinosaur at all. It could look like a brand new thing you invented, maybe even a robot dinosaur. But your two most important points are, how is it inspired by your personality and what is its name? You can even show what it eats or where it lives or what it does. So your first challenge is to invent a new dinosaur. Your second challenge, just like in the book, Katie had to get away from a T-Rex. So your second challenge is to invent a dinosaur trap. How would you get away from a hungry T-Rex? Would you feed it something and run away? Or do you think that might not work as well as it did for Katie? Would you invent some sort of trap? What would you do? And you can draw this out. You can even write beside it to label what it would do. Be an inventor. So those are your two challenges. Don't forget, you can, after you create, you can email me your creations or post them on our Facebook page if you would like to. So get creating, artists.